Lush green surrounds the historic buildings of the remote farm settlement of Glaumbær, deep in the north of Iceland. These turf houses were built in the late 19th century. However, the origin of the farm dates back far longer. Many of these stone structures were built by the legendary Vikings, who, according to recent discoveries, lived in the Glaumbær region in the 11th century. The oldest remaining farm buildings here date back to the 18th century. Windows were added much later. The characteristic roofs of the turf dwellings have always been an integral part of traditional Icelandic architecture. As with most seafaring nations, forests were heavily exploited for the construction of ships, and wood was in particularly short supply in Iceland. The design of these buildings reflects the lack of wood in this region and how they were adapted according to the region's natural resources. Full use was made of what was available in this sparse environment. Due to its enormous weight, the turf roof covered only one room. But turf bricks were a more efficient form of insulation than stone. Freezing cold days and nights were a fact of life here. Fire was used both in the blacksmith's forge and to warm the central living room of each domestic building. Today, Glaumbær's traditional Icelandic farmhouses have been transformed into a fascinating folk museum. A large number of traditional objects and tools recall the daily life of bygone times. As was common in most of Iceland's former farming communities, Glaumbær contained several buildings, in this case 16, that were located around a central building. The badstofa served as a working, living and sleeping space. This was also the location of the communal kitchen, one of the most popular places to be in the harsh cold of winter. Each section of the Skagafjord Folk Museum provides an excellent insight into Iceland's history, including its agriculture. A few rays of sunlight shine into the houses and illuminate various everyday objects, creating an atmospheric, almost magical brightness. It's as though the rooms had been lived in just a few hours ago. Here, time really has stood still. Iceland's challenging way of life that was determined by both its climate and the season of the year made its people highly innovative. Skis served as a practical way of getting around. The former inhabitants of these farming communities would be amazed that their daily lives would one day become the focus of attention in such a museum. A 100 years ago, life here in the countryside was far from romantic. For many, life was a struggle for survival. Unlike other historical farms in Iceland, the central building in Glaumbær is relatively large and provides living accommodation for 22. The exhibits, including a sewing machine, were in use up until the 20th century. And in 1938, Glaumbær's remaining inhabitants left the area. This small farm settlement also had a church. Christianity reached this northern region in the 5th century AD. Iceland once had a settlement of Irish monks, but they were not replaced, and so the community eventually disappeared. In the 11th and 12th centuries, Christianity became Iceland's official religion and replaced the heathen rituals and traditions of the Vikings. The exact age of the Glaumbær church is unknown, as is also the case with the actual settlement. In addition to the important archaeological finds that have recently been made, the former ancient community of farmers and Vikings that once lived here no doubt still contains many a secret yet to be discovered.